Well, good afternoon and welcome everyone. We're glad you were able to join us this afternoon. This is the next portion of our conversation around building an equitable cultural funding program through arts, music, and heritage. I am Solnovia Holt-Rab, Acting Director of the City of Austin's Economic Development Department, and have the privilege of overseeing the cultural arts, music and entertainment, and heritage tourism divisions of EDD. In today's conversations, which will be recorded and viewable through our website after the meeting, we will be hearing proposed programs from EDD staff and our consultant who have been working to align your feedback. Using our shared goals as a guide, you will hear proposed program areas from all three divisions utilizing the hotel occupancy tax that the city receives. These proposed programs will be developed further in the coming weeks, and we are interested in your feedback as the development process continues. Before we proceed, I'd like Selah Mota Casper from our Heritage Tourism Division to make a brief announcement about the availability of this presentation in Spanish.
Esta presentación está disponible en español. Envía un correo electrónico a Jesús Pantel para recibir actualizaciones sobre eventos futuros y grabaciones en español. And now I would like to turn it back to Solnovia to root our conversation within the Hotel Occupancy Statute and the City's Strategic Direction 2023 and our commitment to equity.
It is important for us to consider how our programs comply with the applicable legal and policy requirement. Chief among them, the Hotel Occupancy Tax statute and the state law that governs how municipalities can expend their eligible portions of hot tax towards arts and historic preservation, and the City of Austin Strategic Direction 2023 that sets forth outcome areas, strategies, and metrics for how we deliver services and how work towards improve the quality of life for our community. As I'm sure you are already familiar with both of these guiding resources, I will just touch on the high points of each. The statute directs us to support the encouragement, promotion, improvement, and application of the arts by investing in the growth of Austin's cultural producers. Our funded contractors will present, perform, promote, encourage, or otherwise make possible cultural events and assets that are promoted and open to the public. To do this work, however, we must make sure that we are aligning our investment of hot dollars with our commitment to equity, which connects all of the outcome areas of Strategic Direction 23, including the two major areas of cultural and lifelong learning, as well as economic opportunity and affordability. Our programs must meet the letter of the law, as well as the spirit of the city's strategic direction. In support of the city's equity commitment, all three divisions share the same approach in operationalizing equity within the proposed programs you'll be hearing about. There is consistency in our understanding, use of language, and applications of equity-focused concepts in all of the programs we are creating, and how we are prioritizing service and access by those who have historically not had those opportunities for participation and success. We lead with race and place a premium on inclusion and representation. As you will see in the information we're presenting, we're using hot funds in ways that all of our programs can elevate equity by nurturing our cultural community, protecting and promoting diverse cultures and identities, and building stronger institutions from individuals and groups that need more of a sustainable future. We will share and streamline criteria, and processes as much as possible along all programs, and provide technical assistance and ongoing connections in new ways. You'll hear about some of that in our presentation today and more in January when we have more of the details of programs, application processes, and evaluation criteria ready to share. I'd now like to welcome back Margie Reese of MJR Partners, who is going to remind us of the big picture in this process, why we're doing this work, how your participation has shaped our progress, and where our proposed programs share goals. Welcome, Margie.
Thank you, Sylnovia. We're pleased to have had the opportunity to work with city staff, with commission members, and with many of you to help determine new ways to address the city's commitment to racial equity and to consider program adjustments that lead to grant making and contracting efficiencies in each of the three divisions of the Economic Development Department that manage HOT funded programs. Just a quick review of how we've been focusing our work. We have conducted a number of listening sessions with the public, with civic leaders, and with commission members. We have worked across the three HOT funded programs in the Economic Development Department to do that. Our team has worked with staff members across those divisions, taking a look at equity as it relates to the distribution of funding, to operations and communications, and discussing how grants are reviewed and recommended for funding. Part of our work with staff has also focused on building new responses to what we heard from you and from other city departments at the public and the public at large about how the city might develop more progressive responses to what we heard. In that regard, the responses and programs that you will hear about today are focused on motivating tourists' interest in the heritage, artistic, music, and historical resources available in Austin, and how the city might invest in enhancing leadership capacities and operations that result in greater impact for artists and organizations within the arts, heritage, and music sectors, with particular focus on elevating the work of organizations and artists of color. Through this work, the city is taking seriously its commitment to increasing community participation and engagement, and in centering racial equity across the three divisions to result in more equitable distribution of funding and resources. And now I'd like to turn it over to Melissa Alvarado, Manager of Heritage Tourism Division, to share some of the proposed programs and information for the Historic Preservation Fund.
Thank you, Margie. I'm Melissa Alvarado, Manager of the Heritage Tourism Division, the newest division to the Economic Development Department. The division was created after a series of recommendations to Council from the Visitor Impact Task Force in 2017 and the Heritage Grant Working Group in 2018. The recommendations from the working groups approved by Council in 2018 served to expand the program, which had previously been administered through the Austin Convention and Visitors Bureau, to serve more applicants by 1, expanding eligible applicants to include nonprofit and for-profit entities, 2, expanding eligible project types to include marketing, educational, and planning projects, and 3, increasing the cap on heritage grant awards from $59,000 to $250,000 for capital projects. The purpose of the Heritage Preservation Grant is to promote tourism through the preservation of historic buildings or sites, or planning educational and marketing projects that share new perspectives on documented historic places or events. The Heritage Preservation Grant supports an inclusive cultural and heritage tourism approach that tells multi-layered and complete histories that created the city of Austin. This program hopes to connect people and preservation and supports racially and culturally diverse places where tourists and residents can experience the stories and the places that focus on Austin's historic sites. Priority will be given to African American, Native American, Asian, Hispanic Latino, Middle Eastern, Pacific Islander, LGBTQIA+, disability communities, and other historically underrepresented and underserved groups, with a strong focus on cultural and heritage tourism groups whose work preserves historic places, neighborhoods, historic districts, and heritage corridors, among others. Again, the two project types for heritage preservation grants are capital, a bricks and mortar project, or marketing, educational, and marketing proposals. I'm sorry, marketing, educational, and planning proposals. A capital project is tied to a historic building or a site, and examples of such projects include facade improvement, roof repair, restoration of historic doors, windows, fences, and masonry work. Projects must be completed within 2 years, and the maximum project award for capital projects is up to $250,000. Planning, educational, and marketing projects must also be tied to a historic building or site, and project proposals could include historic designations and respective consultant fees. It could include bilingual marketing materials or oral history projects that serve two primary purposes: to increase tourism and create a deeper, more holistic understanding of historic places. These projects have 1 year to complete the project proposal. Permitted expenses covered under both project types include the cost of insurance and a 10% project management allowance. A financial match is not required for either type of proposal, and fiscal sponsorships are optional. Sharing stories can help empower communities. It can help build local support and enhance pride in our community's identity and sense of place. Our small but determined team will create more awareness workshops and information sessions to prepare applicants for project proposals. We're committed to assisting first-time applicants by providing more technical assistance options throughout the grant application process. And our refined process aims to encourage equitable, inclusive funding for underserved communities, supportive of citywide heritage tourism initiatives. The Heritage Preservation Grant is available to nonprofit and for-profit entities that either lease or own a historic building or site. Priority will be given to competitive projects that describe the historic, cultural, heritage, and/or architectural significance of the historic property or site, and include any threats to the property, or if the building is in an underrepresented area or serves an underrepresented population. Priority will be given to proposals that produce cultural and heritage programming or projects for tourists. Sites must have a historic designation or are eligible for designation at the local, state, and national level. The property must be historically designated by the time the proposed project is completed. Priority will be given to sites that are accessible to tourists and residents. Projects must be located near the convention center or in areas likely to be visited by tourists. Our intent is to connect people and preservation through programming that protects, honors, and promotes Austin inclusive culture, heritage, and history, and shares a glimpse into this meaningful experience with both our tourists and our neighbors. We're now going to take a 3-minute break. So please use this time to put any questions for us in the chat. We will have a brief question and answer period after all 3 divisions have presented. Thank you. And now I'd like to turn it over to the Cultural Arts Division to share proposed program information to for the Cultural Arts Fund. But before I do that, please take note of the Zoom meeting link that has been posted in the chat in the event that you would like to share that out to your network. Megan?
Thanks, Melissa. I'm Megan Wells, manager of the Cultural Arts Division. Thanks for joining us today. Our division primarily utilizes hot funds in two major program areas that we're going to touch on today: public art through the Art in Public Places Tempo program, and the cultural arts funding programs administered by the cultural funding staff. I'm going to start with proposed updates to the AIPP Tempo program, and then share information on the cultural arts funding programs. Tempo is an existing program administered by Art in Public Places that funds temporary public art as an opportunity for artists to produce authentic, original cultural work and experiences that market Austin's arts and culture to tourists and convention delegates. Through this review process, we are reinforcing the Tempo program's commitment to equity. The program seeks to create economic opportunities for historically underrepresented local artists by providing career development in public art, while at the same time recognizing that public art contributes to the city's creative vibrancy and tourism draw. Contract amounts for Tempo will range from $3,000 to $10,000, including all costs to design and install a temporary artwork. This program will seek proposals for temporary public art representing a wide variety of media and approaches, including three-dimensional sculptural works, site-specific installations, time-based works, and performative works. These proposals can open the door to artists who do not yet have a substantial portfolio of public artwork, but may have other creative experience that informs their ideas. This program will also include Tempo 2D, which is focused on two-dimensional artwork, such as murals, that seeks to reduce barriers for artists to gain a public art commission. Murals can be an effective way to communicate message and engage viewers, and at the same time, create a distinct identity and preserve and honor place. Austin is known worldwide for some of our murals, and we're proud that we can continue to support these opportunities for showcasing our local talent. Artists in both Tempo and Tempo 2D will work in cohorts, with technical assistance provided by Art in Public Places staff and previous Tempo artists. Priority in Tempo and Tempo 2D will be given to artists from backgrounds that have been historically underrepresented in the Art in Public Places collection, bringing ideas and voices from Austin's diverse cultures and communities. Priority will be given to artists who make art creation a focus of their practice, who are interested in enhancing civic spaces, and who have previously not yet received a Tempo commission. One of the biggest benefits of this program is that commissioned artists own their artwork after the exhibition period is complete, and so may continue to show the artwork to enhance their portfolio. Now I'd like to transition over to the cultural funding program area, with which many of you are already familiar. This program dates back 50 years if you really dig into the city archives, and has been foundational in building our vibrant creative community. We know that the past 2 years of dialogue, feedback, meeting participation, and conversations with us as staff and the Arts Commission have revealed many ways in which our programs and processes can be improved. And we're very grateful for your continued engagement with us in this journey, especially in the times we're in now. In alignment with the city's commitment to equity, our departmental goals, and statutory requirements, we are proposing 3 funding programs that build on existing program strengths and also present new opportunities for investment. The first of these 3 programs is Nexus, a creative collaboration fund. Developed from the strongest elements of the Community Initiatives program, Nexus will invest in the diverse cultural communities of Austin through projects in which creative public programming is developed through community activation and collaboration between artists and community-based entities, including culturally specific groups, parks, nonprofits, social service providers, activists, and other partners. Nexus will grow the creative economy by prioritizing applicants who are new to city funding, particularly those who have been historically underrepresented in the city's cultural funding programs, specifically Black, African American, Native American, Asian, Hispanic, Latino, Middle Eastern, and Pacific Islander, LGBTQIA, and disability community members. This program will expand the amount of funding typically available in our current Community Initiatives program, with up to $500,000 available for the program per year, so that even more projects can be served. Contracts will be annual with 2 application periods per year. Applicants who do not receive funding will have an opportunity to apply at the next deadline. Currently, we are considering contract amounts that range between $3,000 and $6,000 each, which may include supplemental funding for services to assist reaching audiences with disabilities or language barriers, and to defray the cost of required city insurance. The key elements of Nexus: supporting innovative community-centered art projects, highlighting community voices and encouraging resourcefulness through focusing on partnerships where collaborators have an equal share in the project's creative direction, and nurturing new and emerging talent, leaders, and organizations. In keeping with these goals, this program will include specialized application support and training, application feedback, and other professional development resources for applicants. Nexus will not require a fiscal sponsor, but applicants may use a fiscal sponsor if they choose to. Eligible applicants for this program will be those who have never received cultural funding or have received cultural funding, but for fewer than 5 years. This program is open to individual creatives, artist collectives, and organizations, incorporated and unincorporated, that have been based in the Austin metro area for at least 1 year. Priority will be given to applicants that include artists or artist groups collaborating with such neighborhood or community-based entities such as cultural centers, senior centers, neighborhood associations, etc., community-centered or place-based entities collaborating with artists, applicants representing the rich and diverse cultures of Austin, especially those historically underrepresented in the city's cultural funding program. And that wraps up our information on Nexus. The second program we propose is Elevate, Support for Cultural Productions, and will directly support the organizations, individuals, businesses, and unincorporated groups that produce culturally vibrant and diverse artistic content for the city and the tourists. Elevate seeks to amplify cultural producers' programmatic reach and elevate the city's diverse arts and cultural tourism sector. Funding through this program will cover the creative, administrative, and operational expenses incurred in the production of arts activities and events for Austin's tourists and residents. Similar to the timeline established through our current core funding program, contracts within Elevate will have a 1-year contract term with a 2-year application and peer panel cycle. Contracts within this program will be funded between $10,000 and $100,000. The number of contracts and award amounts will depend on peer panel scores and available hot funding. The key elements of Elevate include basing award amounts on the merit of applicants and how well they align with the funding priorities for the program. An applicant's operational budget will not be the primary factor in determining an award amount. Applications will be reviewed and scored by peer panels reflective of the program's priorities. Application criteria and request amounts will vary based on business or organizational structures. For example, criteria will likely differ for individual applicants versus nonprofit organizations. Unlike the current core funding program, Elevate will not require a fiscal sponsor, but applicants may choose to partner with a fiscal sponsor if they want to. Elevate will likely have 2 primary categories for applicants. The first for nonprofit organizations, and the second for individuals, unincorporated groups, and businesses. The Elevate program will remove existing distinctions between operational support and project support used by the current core program. Eligible applicants for this program must produce arts and cultural activities open to the public that add to the city's diverse arts and cultural tourism sector. Applications are open to nonprofits, businesses, unincorporated groups, and individuals of all creative disciplines with a 1-year history of operating in the cultural sector in Austin. Priority will be given to applications that invest in local artists, engaging in meaningful community-based partnerships, elevating creative innovation and demonstrating a measurable commitment to racial equity through diverse leadership and community-centered program development, and represent the rich and diverse cultures of Austin, especially those historically underrepresented in our cultural funding programs. And that wraps up our information on Elevate. The third program we're sharing today is Thrive, a cultural growth fund. This program is intended to promote Austin's diverse cultures, excuse me, to tourists by supporting the programs, operations, and leadership development of small to mid-sized African American, Native American, Asian, Hispanic, Latino, Middle Eastern, and Pacific Islander-led arts and culture organizations that are significant contributors to the city's creative vibrancy and heritage. These contractors will meet as a cohort during the program. Thrive will invest in organizational stability, sustainability, and growth to strengthen applicants as cultural tourism and economic drivers for Austin. It will support professional development for applicants deeply rooted in and reflective of Austin's historically marginalized and underfunded communities to amplify and honor their work. Contracts awarded through this program will support the production of arts and cultural activities that are marketed primarily to tourists, convention delegates, and also Austin residents. Contract terms will be 2 years, and the program will award up to 10 contracts in the 2-year cycle. We anticipate awards between $50,000 and $175,000 per year for each awardee. In keeping with the Hotel Occupancy Tax statute requirements, Thrive will require that contracted applicants provide an organizational growth plan that includes attracting new audiences, including tourists and visitors to Austin. Each cohort will receive funding, professional development, staff support, mentorship, and networking opportunities to foster growth, leadership development, and expansion of organizational and financial capacity. Contractors must continue producing public cultural events during the contract term and will be supported in finding ways to grow their engagements with tourists. In addition, Thrive will require contract deliverables that are tailored to the specific capacity goals and needs of each organization. Applications for Thrive are open to nonprofit organizations that provide ongoing or recurring programming that is accessible and marketed to tourists. Eligible applicants will need to have a 5-year history of operating in the cultural sector in the Austin metro area and producing arts and cultural activities for the public that add to the city's diverse arts, cultural, and heritage tourism sector. Priority will be given to applications that have clear plans for how funding will be used to improve programmatic capabilities while broadening audience development, marketing reach, and impact on tourism. Produce art and cultural programs open to the public with a lived experience in and reflective of African American, Native American, Asian, Hispanic, Latino, Middle Eastern, and Pacific Islander communities. Are from historically underserved communities that consistently encounter barriers to obtaining the institutional resources necessary for capacity development, and demonstrate an urgent need for organizational growth and investment to ensure long-term sustainability. And that wraps up our information on Thrive. And with all of that, we are now going to take a 3-minute break. Please also use this time to put any questions for us about this information in the chat. Thank you. And now I'd like to turn it over to the Music and Entertainment Division to share proposed information on the Live Music Fund.
Thanks, Megan. Hello, everybody. My name is Erica Shamley. I am the Division Manager for Music and Entertainment. I just want to thank all of you for being here on a Saturday. So the Live Music Fund was established by ordinance on September 19th, 2019, and is based on recommendations from 2017's Visitor Task Force final report. City staff coordinated the first phase of community engagement efforts with the Austin Music Commission's Live Music Fund Working Group, which was comprised of music commissioners and representatives of Austin's music community who were nominated during the commission's November 2019 meeting. The Live Music Fund Working Group met several times throughout 2020 and delivered their recommendations to the Music Commission on October 19th, 2020, and were unanimously supported, along with additional recommendations presented by the Music Commission's Systemic Racism Working Group, which was formed in the summer in 2020. The Music and Entertainment Division's 2021 inaugural cultural funding program is sourced from Hotel Occupancy Tax, also known as HOT, revenue from Austin's hotel and convention industries. So the Live Music Fund event program supports live and virtual music shows and special events that can be marketed to local audiences, potential and visiting tourists, and convention delegates. Priority will be given to activities that promote a more equitable and diverse live music industry in Austin. So the purpose of the Live Music Fund event program is to encourage, promote, improve, and showcase Austin's diverse live music industry through supporting live and virtual music events. This program supports Austin's professional music businesses and organizations, as well as musicians and bands that produce and promote live or virtual events that can be marketed to visiting and potential tourists, convention delegates, and local audiences. Awards up to $50,000 will be paid over a 12-month contract period and may be drawn down monthly for reimbursing eligible expenses for live and virtual music shows and special events. Budgets should reflect a certain number of events over a 12-month period, but details on exact dates and billing are not necessary unless these shows have been confirmed by the time the application is submitted. However, we understand that confirmed shows often change, and this is acceptable as long as the scope of the shows proposed in the application occur within the contract period. Give me a second. All right, the key concepts of the Live Music Fund event program are preservation, innovation, and elevation, and collaboration, which are part of the Music Commission's Systemic Racism Working Group's recommendations presented in October 2020. Proposed activities and applications should consider the following concepts to encourage a more equitable live music industry in Austin. Preservation, enriching the past, investment in the historic cultural heritage of Austin's music, and the preservation of the traditions and legacies of historically underserved communities. Innovation, envisioning the future. Investment in the innovation of traditional business models committed to innovative and inclusive practices that build capacity in underserved communities. Elevation and collaboration, empowering the present. Investment in the elevation, education, and promotion of Austin music from historically underrepresented communities. Again, applicants' proposed activities should take inspiration from one or all of these key concepts and may include live and virtual shows by local and touring musicians, district-based musical special events, marketing spending plans to promote proposed activities, and Austin as a live music experience and tourist destination. Allowable expenses include the following: performance guarantees, venue or office rental and insurance, employee salaries and contractor pay, marketing collateral and advertising placements, supplies, and any necessary travel. So, priority will be given to professional music organizations and musicians that curate and promote live and virtual musical performances that are marketed to potential tourists and convention delegates, including live music venues, music labels, live music promoters, recording studios, and live music special event producers, professional Austin musicians who perform solo or as part of a local Austin band, but only one application per band, please. Both live music venues and musicians and bands must meet the Economic Development Department's definition of each group, which more information to come in January. And then again, priority given to Black and African American, Native American, Asian, Hispanic, Latino, Middle Eastern, Pacific Islander, LGBTQIA+, and disability communities and other historically underrepresented and underserved communities. Musicians and bands proposing special events and collaboration or partnership with other artistic disciplines should apply through the Cultural Arts Division programs. So please add your questions about the Live Music Fund event program in the chat. It's now time for our main Q&A about all of the proposed programs you've heard about today. I'm going to hand it over to Jesus Pantel from the Cultural Arts Division and Kim McCarson from the Music and Entertainment Division to MC this portion of the program. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Trying to get my video started here, but I'm Jesus Pantel, and thank you for all of your great questions. We've collected them throughout the meeting, and we'll now devote the next 15 minutes to answering as many as we can. Please keep in mind that we are most prepared to answer your questions on the information that was shared today, and information on how we are implementing scoring and distributing funds will be covered in January. We will begin posting questions and answers on our website soon, as we've mentioned in the chat, and we'll notify those of you who signed up on Eventbrite when it has been uploaded. You may also attend our upcoming virtual open office hours. Information is at bit.ly/EDDVOOH, and that's all capital letters, EDDVOOH, which stands for Economic Development Department Virtual Open Office Hours. You can also make an appointment to talk with staff at a time that is convenient for you. Without further ado, let's dive into some of your questions. And let me pull those up here. The first question I remember seeing is it was basically about applying in various programs, whether in different divisions or within the same one. So Melissa, I will turn that over for you to answer.
Sure. Organizations can apply for funding from the Heritage Tourism, Cultural Arts, Music and Entertainment divisions if eligible, as long as the proposals are different. So proposals must be for different scopes of work, and expenses can only be paid out once per division. Yeah, I think that gets to that.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
I'm moving on to general all hot questions for the division managers. Are these programs directed for ongoing year-round events, or can they be used for seasonal events? And examples given are like Juneteenth or holiday events. So I think that varies by the various programs. So Megan, I'll hand that off to you first.
Thanks, Jesus. I think that this is probably a question that is covered by the programs, like you said, case by case. Is there anything you'd like to add from cultural funding?
No, I think both of those would be, again, like you're saying, kind of case by case. Yes, it is possible that it could be one or both of those. Erica, I'll let you go next for how that might apply to music.
Oh yeah, so for sure, that's actually part of the acceptable activities. Is these could be ongoing shows that a venue or a label or a musician are doing anyway, creating new shows. But it could also be a special event, like a festival for the weekend. It just depends. Just the cap on the awards are $50,000. And so it just has to show a full, built out budget for however many shows is included.
Thank you. And Melissa, I'll let you answer for heritage tourism.
Sure. It can be an ongoing event. It can be a one-time event. I think the most important thing is that the site it remain accessible to both tourists and residents and neighbors so that they can appreciate the value and take in its beauty and what it has to offer. So absolutely.
Thank you. Next question, is there a link to the PowerPoint presentation? I'll go ahead and answer that one because yes, a recording of this presentation and slides will be available on our website in the coming weeks. And then the next question is, having worked on projects with substantial art programs, I've seen that the legal/liability challenges can be daunting to installations in the public realm. Will programs be reviewed as they develop to assist artists and artisans who may not be familiar with checking these boxes? Megan, I'll hand that one off to you first.
I'm so sorry, Jesus. Can you repeat that question?
Sure. Having worked on projects with substantial art programs, I've seen that the legal liability challenges can be daunting to installations in the public realm. Will programs be reviewed as they develop to assist artists and artisans who may not be familiar with checking these boxes?
Yes, we are working actively with our law department to streamline the legal requirements of both insurance and liability. We know that that is an impediment to artists who apply for our programs. There are requirements that we are mandated to require of any contractors who contract with the city, but we know that that's an area where we can make some improvements to make it a little easier for applicants to both satisfy those and work within their financial constraints to handle that expense. And if you'd like to add any more cultural funding, please do.
I think that covers it for cultural funding. Melissa or Eric, is there anything you want to add for heritage tourism or music?
No, those legal requirements are the same because that is part of our city process and the guidance that we all receive equally.
Thank you. Erica, anything to add? Oh, you're muted, Erica.
Yes, actually, this isn't around the public art realm, but event realm of if there's any kind of permitting issues, special event requirements in terms of permits, that we still have that component of music and entertainment division to act as a creative industry ombudsman around commercial spaces and events. So again, you can ask any questions during the virtual office hours or reach out to Kim Carson or myself with any specific questions.
All righty, thank you. How are you defining a cultural organization? And I think this may differ from each of the different programs. So Melissa, I'm going to have you answer this one first. Again, how are you defining cultural organization?
Well, again, the Heritage Grant is eligible for both nonprofit and for-profit entities. The project proposal must be tied to a historic site. So from this perspective, we very much view it as a nonprofit entity that is helping to ensure that an integrity or programming centered around a historic site is an opportunity that can be enjoyed by both residents and our neighbors.
Thank you. Erica, I'll let you answer for music.
Okay, could you repeat the question? I'm so sorry, just because, about how cultural. So that doesn't, the definition of cultural.
Yeah.
So we just consider that's not really an active part of our definition. It's just music industry businesses, which are all part of our cultural world, here in Austin. And so we don't have any kind of specific tie to a definition that we need to stick to, just to the kind of definitions around the live music venue and professional musicians, just to be sure that we are really getting to the core of our professional industry here in Austin.
Okay, thank you. And I think for cultural funding, we are taking a broad view of a cultural organization, artistic disciplines of all kinds. So that's what we're looking for there. Moving on to the next question. We've already asked that one. So the next one is, the term Blacks has been removed from the list of groups that participate in these programs. Is this deliberate? Speaking for cultural funding, I think across all of them, we do talk about different racial and ethnic groups, including Black and African American. I know there are different programs that have, and we are leading with a racial lens. So don't know what this is referring to, I guess, for any of the cultural funding programs, but I will let Melissa or Erica answer for their specific programs. Melissa, I'll let you go.
Well, I think if I understand the question, our intention here is to really bring forward.
Please charge.
Sorry.
Could everyone please mute if you're not part of the presenters? Thank you.
Is to align our processes so that we are capturing information and promoting projects from a variety of different multi-ethnic groups. And this is how we are capturing this information. If I'm understanding the question correctly, and if I'm not, please restate the question, Jesus, because it's not apparently clear to me what you're asking.
Okay.
I think we were just inconsistent in how we were using terms in how we were describing the different racial groups that we were intending to serve. Obviously, we will all be looking at how we are serving all of those communities consistently. Black and African American do have a slightly different connotation and meaning to different communities, but we will look at that with the same lens across the 3 divisions.
Thank you. Next question, is there a limit to how much money can be spent on marketing, in quotes, per contract? Is there any way to track this portion of the money so it is not misused? For cultural funding, there is not a specific amount on what can be spent in marketing. We do want you to be spending money on the various items that are needed to make the project happen. So it should not all be spent on marketing, but the other kind of thing is, I guess, we kind of prorate it. So we're also not going to be funding, all of your marketing for something that's not related to the project. It has to be related to the specific project. I'm assuming that's the way it is for both heritage tourism and music and entertainment, but I'll let Erica and Melissa chime in on that. Erica, I'll let you go.
Sure. So marketing expenses as related to this first program, event program, is just one part. It has to we have to show us a budget for the whole production to help cover those costs. So we'd rather see kind of an equal distribution across the production budget so that we know that the production is going to get done, because these, again, it's to produce events. There will be an event for an audience. And so we would rather see not just paying the production side of that. We want to really see guarantees paid to artists. We want to see the venues paid. We want to just whatever expenses that are necessary. These are necessary expenses in the run in our industry regardless. And so this is really to help offset a lot of those recurring expenses that are happening anyway. And we'd want to see a full rounded budget and not just taking one aspect of the budget, unless you can make a case for it. There are times where maybe a guarantee could eat up a lot of a grant, for an annual event. But if there's a way that you can show the outcomes of that, both in terms of equity and tourism gains, then that's a possibility. So you just have to show of what you're getting for this particular investment of taxpayer money.
Anything to add, Melissa?
Well, under the Heritage Grant, an applicant can select to either move forward with a capital project or a marketing, planning, and educational project. So you could commit your proposal, which is based on bids that you would submit, You could base your proposal on expanding your marketing efforts so that you are in fact attracting more tourism. So, and with your proposal, you're able to insert a number of different priority line items that roll up and equal your entire project proposal. So marketing can either be your one and only priority, or it can be one of a few different prioritized line items within your overall proposal. So there is some flexibility there.
Thank you. Next question. Can you give examples of projects that you are not seeing as much of and would like to? Which groups are underrepresented? Erica, I'll let you start with that one.
Sure. So we don't have a program yet. This will be the inaugural first program of the Live Music Fund for this year to see how this goes with practicality within the industry, but also the equity outcomes we would love to see to make Austin's music industry more diverse and inclusive and equitable. So, we're just going to have to wait and see how things, go. And now I lost my train of thought to the first part of the question. But, because this is a new program, can you please repeat it, Jesus? I'm sorry.
Sure, no problem. Can you give examples of projects that you're not seeing as much of and would like to?
Right, excuse me. So since this is a kind of a new program, we just want to see more diversity within our industry, not both in leadership and staffing and different venues. And so, we see wonderful diversity on billing. And so what we want to see are projects that really do help bring different voices, different curators and talent buyers and collaborators to come together and work together in ways to create shows. I mean, this is this industry loves creating experiences that people remember for a lifetime. And so there are ways that you can combine these collaborations and the way that we market to our audiences and to our tourists to create more dynamic and new types of events here in Austin. So we want to see that type of, not just the turn and burn of what is going to sell to the audiences you've always sold to, but how are you reaching new audiences and how are you using different perspectives to put those shows together?
Thank you. Melissa, anything you'd like to add to that?
I love that Erica led with collaboration because that is something that we strongly encourage. You don't have to lease or own a historic building to partner with someone who does and create an incredibly dynamic and interesting opportunity for others to enjoy. So definitely collaborative projects is encouraged. But I also will say, as the newest division, we've been around not quite 2 years, that the first year we had about 80% of our proposals were bricks and mortar proposals. Since the pandemic, what we've seen most recently is that kind of flip-flopped. And this past year, we had something like 70% of our applicants looking for more planning, educational, marketing type projects. And I'm really happy that we could be nimble and flexible enough with the program to kind of meet people where they were and help them submit proposals from the safety of working from home. And so overall, we encourage a nice healthy mix. We encourage collaborative projects. And just look forward to working with new groups.
I'll just chime in from the Cultural Arts Division. We know that Austin is a diverse and culturally rich city. So the artistic and creative content that we're seeking to pull up, to highlight, to support and elevate is really born of the ability for artists to create a sense of belonging for so many in our community, and for that inclusion to include more stories and histories, perspective, communication messages, and really viewpoints of those people that have made Austin the creative and rich place it is, that historically maybe have not had the platform to share that with the broader community and with our tourists to shape a very inclusive identity to continue to add to the richness that we have as a city culturally. And so we're looking for those stories and those artistic projects, really dig deep into those communities and place a premium on telling the story of those that really need to be heard. And we want to create flexibility for that as well.
Thank you. And it looks like we have time for one more question. So our final question for today, and again, you know, we'll be getting we have recorded everybody's questions here, so we will be working on responses to get out at a later date. But to our last question for today, are you funding virtual events or streaming infrastructure to strengthen the cultural sector, or only live? I can say that for cultural funding, we are funding online virtual events. So that is something that is fine. Cultural funding specifically, and I believe it may be a citywide rule, you cannot buy infrastructure. So it's not like buying, you know, fancy software to do, you know, graphics, you know, behind you. But if you need to get a higher level of internet service, you know, higher broadband speed, and something like that would be, you could fund something like that. So cultural funding currently is funding both virtual events and live events, if it is okay to do a live event and it's in compliance with whatever kind of city rules are in place regarding public gatherings. Erica, I know music doesn't have a program yet, but you want to speak to that?
Yeah, it will be both. And it's something we want to encourage both live and virtual regardless. We consider this to be new revenue streams, new opportunities for Austin musicians and artists to connect with fans and audiences, not only here, but outside of Texas. And so we really want to see, you know, that type of engagement happening. So, yeah.
Thank you. And Melissa, is there anything you would like to add?
No, the Heritage Grant Program, it mirrors very much what cultural arts has to offer based on the parameters that our legal bees recommend to us. So it very much mirrors the cultural arts process.
Yeah. And there could be support coming from other programs in terms of that type of direct capacity building around like equipment or, you know, guiding you guys to other resources to get that type of infrastructure. But again, there are a lot of expenses that go into beyond just the video. It's still paying the production, paying the artists. And so those are expenses for a live show and a virtual show regardless. So, but we do want to see a permanent component where artists, venues, labels, you name it, have the infrastructure for both so that we can really be, you know, expanding those audiences here and beyond.
Thank you. And again, you know, that was our last question for today, but have recorded your questions and we'll be answering those in a later date if you'd like to follow up with us directly. Again, the virtual open office hours, you can find information again at bit.ly/EDBVOOH, all capital letters. And with that, I will turn it over to Sylnovia Holt-Rabb.
Thank you, Jesus, and Megan, Melissa, and Erica. On behalf of Veronica Brasenio, our Chief Economic Recovery Officer, myself, as well as Susanna Carbajal, our Assistant Director who joined us today, Megan, Erica, Melissa, the entire staff behind the scenes, as well as our consultant, Margie Reese. We want to say thank you for joining us today for this important conversation. It was very great questions, great conversations. We want you to know that we are committed to this process and the outcomes that will continue to serve Austin through our vibrant cultural community. Our next steps will be to continue considering your feedback through the next phase of program development, which will focus on draft program guidelines. We plan to share the draft guidelines in more details with you at the end of January, but the date has not been finalized yet. We're continuing to vet our programs, processes, and formative guidelines with our partners within the city, such as the Equity Office, the Law Department, Finance and Risk Management, tourism professionals, and others, so that they are compliant and effective programs. Please continue to be in the conversation with us. You may sign up for our open office hours, subscribe to our newsletters, contact us by email or phone, and review the resources on our website listed on the screen. Thank you again for all you do to serve our community and make our city culturally vibrant. It is that secret sauce that everybody wants to have. Enjoy the rest of your day, your holiday, and join us again in January. Have a good one, everybody.